Charles Lee spoke about LaMelo Ball and where he wants LaMelo to improve going into next season. We'll dive into some of those comments, look at Trey Mann's chances of ending up with the Hornets again next year, and another mock draft for you all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. That does include YouTube. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can also find him hosting Locked On NBA with Hayes and Matt Moore. NBA playoffs, man. And you go check out Locked On NBA for all the latest on what's happening in the postseason. You can't do it here. We're not telling you what's happening in the postseason. We're telling you what's happening in the offseason. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Although we, along with Trey Mann, Doug, all three of us want to see Charlotte back in the postseason. So that'll be an interesting topic to get to in just a little bit.
It's true. We also wanted to not see Miami in the postseason, but once again, they could not let the Hornets have a nice thing, which would be a for sure 2028 unprotected first-round pick. No, the Miami Heat, they make the playoffs. I think, did both 10 seeds make the play? No, or is Miami the only 10 seed? I don't know. The 10 seed makes the play.
Yeah. They were the only one. So
so
Dallas
finally a 10
the
seed makes the playoffs. Of course it's Miami, and of course it means that Charlotte, for now, has a 2027 lottery protected first round pick coming back from the Terry Rozier deal. Now, if that doesn't convey, then the Hornets would get the 2028 unprotected pick. So
there's still a shot. You would like to have that in the bag. And really kind of interesting to talk about with the timing of it all. How much does it hurt you not having your money right now, right? Like it's almost like taxes. You don't have your money right now. You might get a refund check at the very end of all of this, but it means you can't go out and invest with any of your money. The government has it right now. And so I wonder how much that hurts you from a team building aspect in terms of it only being a 2027 lottery protected pick rather than a 2028 unprotected pick. Does a year go by where you miss out on something? Anyway, that's actually an interesting. We're so good at content creation. We're so good at that, baby. That's all we do. It's Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. Did want to tell you this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Also, we have a newsletter, the Locked On Hornets Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Hornets newsletter. So, Doug, you said maybe you were a little annoyed with some of the stuff that Jeff Peterson had to say with the sustainability of it all. We don't have to go down that road again. Charles Lee, I think, it's taboo. I think with Charles Lee, you and I both felt like he was pretty damn insightful, man. I enjoyed listening to Charles at the table at Exit Day. And it was funny because he was talking for quite some time. And then we got the wrap-up signal from PR just because he had no big reason as to why. It's just he had already taken up quite a bit of time. We had a schedule that you're trying to follow, and we always go off schedule on Exit Day. It's just how it is. And then after we got the wrap-up signal, he finished his one question that he was already on like 3 minutes after the fact, and then he had one more question, and then it took 4 more minutes. He was here to talk, which I appreciate. We've gotten pretty lucky in Charlotte in terms of having a coach that is willing to talk with us. Varying levels of honesty, varying levels of personality. But James Borrego, Steve Clifford, and Charles Lee, all good with the media, man. And so I appreciate that. I thought one really insightful answer he gave us was on LaMelo and where Charles wants LaMelo to improve next season. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I think number one is just, continued body maintenance and improvements, getting stronger, being able to to not wear down. I think as teams are going to try to be more physical with him, especially if we're trying to get to that level of play-in and playoffs, and even the end-season tournament now that has that like added level of intensity. Teams are trying to deny him. They're trying to be physical, and you could see early in the year when teams did it, it definitely bothered him. And I think as he got used to it, he got a lot more comfortable. So it's going to start with his body. He's got to get stronger, more in condition to be able to play both sides of the ball and sustain efforts. And then I think the next part is managing the game offensively, understanding what shots we need at what time, who needs to get a touch, who's got it going, the pace in which he needs to play with in a pick and roll situation. I just think that part of the game, as he starts like just becoming an extension of the coaching staff and can get us under control and put us in the best position offensively to be successful, it's going to be very exciting to see.
Doug, what'd you think of his answer?
I think it was good. I think, obviously he also talked about his need to get stronger, physically stronger, to take some of that pressure off of him when teams double team him, when teams get physical, because like they did that, particularly after Brandon Miller was hurt. Some of the double teams that Brandon was getting then shifted over to LaMelo Ball. And then when LaMelo Ball got hurt, they shifted over to Miles Bridges. But when they were on LaMelo Ball, I think he had a difficult time breaking those and then making the right decision out of those. And when he did get to the rim, he had a hard time finishing, drawing fouls. All of that would be helped if he were a little bit stronger, because the level of physicality that he saw in the regular season, like, it gets amped up. I mean, you saw it this weekend. Well, look at what, and Steph Curry was able to fight through it, but the Rockets were manhandling him. I mean, the pressure that SGA, a much bigger guard, was getting for OKC, and it bothered him. And luckily, OKC had 1,000 other weapons that allowed them to win by 50. But the pressure that you get as a star player on your team in the postseason is just so much different than the regular season. And it seemed at times he struggled with the regular season pressure.
Yeah, we talked about this quite a bit, Doug. I know you were on this a lot as well. With the sending two guards LaMelo's way, being really physical with them, and the players testing the officials to see what they can get away with. And oftentimes with LaMelo, they could get away with a lot. And so if you can get away with a lot, then you're going to continue to ramp up the pressure, and then you don't get any calls, and LaMelo is taken out of the game, or maybe not completely taken out of the game because you still are attacking him, which leaves other guys open, which makes your teammates better, but also there's not many teammates that can go win a game for you. And so that's where the SGA and the talent around him, that's where that really helps, because the team building is a lot better over there in OKC than what it is here in Charlotte because of things that are their fault and some things that aren't. But we all get the idea. That was a real thing for him. So a lot of stuff for LaMelo, not really going to happen on the court, going to happen in the weight room. And LaMelo, he's been a skinny guy his entire time in the league. I don't think he's soft, right? I think that I don't view LaMelo as a soft player. He's just not strong. I actually think he's okay with being contacted. I think when it's so physical at the perimeter especially, I think that's where things just kind of get hazy and he doesn't make the right decision, which I think a lot of players would be affected by that. I think he still does battle at times and still gets to the rim, but I think you're right. It's the biggest issue for LaMelo that we've been talking about every single season he's been in the league has been his lack of rim pressure, and even when he's shown you some pressure, his lack of rim finishing, which has been the bigger issue here, I would say, the last couple of years. So all of that is true, and how much more weight is he going to put on via muscle, via just working out? Grant Williams, when we talked with him on Wes and Walker, Doug, Grant talked about how important it is. He said there are some guys in the NBA that just don't work out. It's not what they believe in. It's not what they do. He didn't talk about it as far as anybody on the team, but he discussed that in the NBA in its entirety. But Grant said, yeah, I do think it's imperative. I do think it's all about conditioning, not wearing down over the course of an 82-game season, which Doug, Charles Lee talked about that with his guys, that we need to be ready for an 82-game season because some of the bodies, they wear down a little bit. All of that, I think it really is important, and we can get to the managing the game stuff later, but I do think a lot of those issues are fixed. A lot of LaMelo's issues are fixed with just a real hardcore offseason weight room regimen.
It certainly can't hurt the ankles, right? I mean, we often talk about this, the Steph Curry parallels and his ankle issues. Part of it was adopting the goofy looking big ankle braces that he wears, but part of it also was the training regimen that he went under to strengthen his lower body to take some pressure off of those ankles. So it's certainly not going to hurt that, but I think it needs to be everything, because what tends to happen with LaMelo Ball when defenses got physical with him is that he speeds up his game and he gets ahead of his own offense and he takes 3-point shots that aren't the most comfortable 3-point shots, aren't the most ideal 3-point shots, and it hurt his efficiency this year. It hurt his 3-point field goal percentage this year. It hurt the offense's ability this year. And yes, there are some trust issues and then some valid trust issues with the complement of players that he was, I think, given even if the Hornets were healthy. But once they started to sustain a few injuries, that just sort of fell through the floor. And so, you combine all of that, and it wasn't the best year for LaMelo Ball, and he has to continue to improve his game. I think what would make me feel a little bit better if LaMelo were to come out to the table and say, like, very definitively, I agree with all of that. Here's what I think I need to do. Here's where I think I need to improve. Instead, I think oftentimes before and in this exit interview, we got, for sure, whatever they say. Whatever the trainers say, I'll do whatever the trainers say, which is like, great. I mean, if you trust the expertise of the team, great. I mean, better than like, these guys don't know what they're doing. But I would love to hear some like agency from LaMelo Ball. I said this when we were going through all of this ankle brace watch. Is like, I just want him to be like, yes, I understand the problem, and here's what I'm going to do to fix it. I'm going to take control of this situation as a star player on the team, and I don't feel that from him. That frustrates me a little bit. I would feel much better if that's what I was to hear from him.
No, it'd be comforting to hear LaMelo just open up at all and just let you know what he's truly thinking. And maybe he is. It's just always a man of few words.
We just don't know.
Last thing. Yeah, right. 100%. Last thing here. I do want to point out one thing, because I think it goes into LaMelo not being soft. There was an area I do think he got better in, Doug, and that's turning the ball over. Didn't do it as much this season. His turnover percentage was down. It was by far the best that he had posted in his NBA career. And what's funny is his usage percentage can only go up so much, but it did go up. He was in the 100th percentile among point guards, according to Cleaning the Glass, and yet his turnover percentage was down at 12.4. The year prior was 13.6%, 13.2. He was hanging around, hovering in that 30th percentile, not very good. He was in the 60th this year. And so I think that goes to my point of, man, when you talk about a guy dealing with all that physicality, doing a better job of taking care of the basketball, you know his handles are awesome. Like, LaMelo's got really good handles. And so he can deal with some of that physicality and not turn it over. And so maybe you would argue that there was one tiny step taken. We got a few more that we need to take. But that's a good sign. If the usage percentage goes up, and he played 1,500 minutes this season, and the turnover percentage goes down, like, those numbers don't necessarily make sense, right, for a player that handles the basketball as much as he does. And you would think it's maybe even a James Harden thing, where James Harden gives you the triple-double, but he turns it over all the time. Russell Westbrook, when he won MVP, he handles the basketball all the time. He also turns it over. It's just because somebody has to run the offense. Man, that's good. I'll take that turnover percentage from LaMelo. So tiny baby steps. That was a good sign for me, and I hope that continues.
I think it's a good sign. I hope it continues too when the offense gets more complex, when he's able to battle through those double teams, because I think a little bit of a factor in that is that, yes, the usage went up, but his personal usage went up, meaning he was taking a lot of quick shots. Mm-hmm. And when you're taking a lot of quick shots relative to like driving, relative to, making passes, yes, your turnovers are just going to naturally go down. And so, like, if you look at his assist to usage, so how much did he assist relative to his usage? That actually went down year over year from 1.1 to 1.05, went from slightly above average to slightly below average. So, he's passing less. I mean, again, relative to he's probably passing overall more because he had the ball in his hands more and played more games. But relative to how much he had the ball in his hands, he was passing less.
Still good sign, though, I think, because it's not that like it was that much of a drop in that category, and we're talking about a bunch of G leaguers that he's playing with. So
totally, yeah. I'm just throwing all of the context out there because
you're good.
This season was weird, and I think it's all like the big takeaway from exit day is like we'll see.
Yeah,
you know what? We'll see on a lot of this. All of these players have to improve. LaMelo is not the only player on this team that has to get into the gym and ask themselves some really kind of existential, like, what kind of player am I going to ultimately end up being on this team and in the context of the NBA?
Yeah.
And you know, if all of that improves together, you know, we'll see a lot of these stats flip.
All right, another thing we'll see, Trey Mann coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Maybe.
He's everywhere.
We'll see him somewhere, whether it's on the bench, different team, on the court in a Hornets uniform. We just don't know. And so Trey Mann went real quiet, not only in terms of just not having played a whole lot, but we never heard from him. He was the only player that didn't do an exit day interview. Some weird stuff happening with Trey Mann, but he tweeted. We'll tell you about that tweet and what it means for his future coming up next. LOH. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. It's playoff season, and that means big performances, even with bigger rewards attached to it. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk of a deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free three-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game, and terms do apply. If you've ever looked at your delivery fees and thought there's got to be a better way, with Dash Pass, you get $0 delivery fees and exclusive perks like this one. How much would you save over a season if you were a Dash Pass member and you took advantage of the Wingstop deal? So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long when any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game. Dash Pass members can grab a free three-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and a code WINGSTOP50. WINGSTOP50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. Thanks again to Dash Pass. More Locked On Hornets ahead. It's been weird with Trey Mann. We've talked about it a little bit. It was one of the underlying issues I was more frustrated with, just not having any clarity on the Trey Mann stuff. We never got any confirmation that Trey Mann would miss the rest of the season. We got the tweet from Spencer however long ago it was. That was the only thing we heard. And then no confirmation, no follow-up, no nothing. So nobody really asked about it. I wanted to. After getting frustrated on an episode, I went there, wanted to ask about it, and then I got that, we're about to wrap up here. We're done. So I was like, of course, great. Now I'm a part of the problem. Now I'm the issue as well. We don't see him the rest of the season, Doug. Doesn't ever play. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll just ask questions at exit day, how he's feeling, all that stuff. He's not there. He's the only player, right? Mark Williams speaks. Brandon Miller speaks. Grant Williams speaks. Grant Williams, Brandon Miller, they were both injured. They both missed all of the games that they did. We even talked with some of the G League guys, the younger dudes, KJ Simpson, Nick Smith Jr. They spoke to media, but no Trey Mann. So some weird stuff revolving his future. We just don't know what he's going to do as we move forward. He did tweet. He tweeted over the weekend. He said this, Doug, quote, postseason hoops back in Charlotte soon. Cross fingers emoji. And then we'll call it the teal heart color emoji. Man, what do you think about this Trey Mann situation, what we have going forward?
It's really odd. I don't really know much. I don't really know much. I don't know what to say because you've got a player that was looking like the second coming of Allen Iverson, both in look and game, getting to whatever spot he wanted to on the floor. Being able to drive with abandon, and he looked great. And then all of a sudden, the back injuries steal his season. And we did get some updates throughout the season that essentially were he's not making progress, which are like the worst kind of updates. It just seemed like one of these It seemed like one of these situations that was very similar to Mark Williams last season, which was they were trying to ramp him up, and then he would experience some kind of setback pain or what have you, and they couldn't identify an issue that they would say, all right, we know for sure if we do surgery on this, it's going to be such and such number of weeks. It was like, no, we just have to keep going through this program, and if he makes progress, then we can have some kind of timeline then. But that just never happened. And then to not hear from him is concerning, because you would think the organization, if they were confident that he was going to make, a full recovery return, that you would want to sit him down in front of media and have him say that, have him answer some questions about this. But this all feels very Cody Martin-ish as well, like where we're just going to hide this, we're going to not talk about this until he just suddenly appears and is ready to play again. And maybe the Hornets thought, look, we're going to need the summer to figure this all out. He's a restricted free agent, so the Hornets have some control over how this all plays out. But, I think the fingers crossed emoji is sort of the most appropriate thing here, because we're all crossing our fingers, because having whatever version of Trey Mann we saw for what was it, 14 games, like that would be valuable to the Hornets next season. And so we all have our fingers crossed.
Just kind of going down the timeline of Charlotte Hornets PR account on Twitter, looking at the injury updates, it's a graveyard here. I don't particularly enjoy going down this timeline. But one of the things that I go back to is that late November part of the schedule when we saw Trey Mann last. And then you can see update November 19th for tonight's game at Brooklyn. Trey Mann has been upgraded to available. And then that game going into Detroit, he was probable with the low back soreness. And then he would play Brooklyn, Detroit. That's all we would see. Those would be the last two games that he played all year long. They would hold him out. They'd say, because of his low back, he's out for this upcoming game, this next game. Yeah, he's out for this one. And then I think we finally didn't we get hit with the 2-week evaluation process for Trey Mann? Like we have a couple of players, and that never was true. It was never 2 weeks and then he's back. It was 2-week evaluation, and then everything will just kind of dissipate into obscurity, and we won't ever hear of this again. Which
and I don't
leads
think,
to the lack
again,
of clarity.
I don't think there's like some conspiracy behind that. I think they were hoping that when those 2 weeks were up, they would have an update. And again, I think this is just a situation where you have these sort of milestones that you have to hit. And if a guy never gets to the milestone, and then you have to just sort of, if there's pain or something and you have to ramp things back down, then what update is there? Some of these injuries are not like, oh yeah, you broke your leg, so we know traditionally when you break this bone, you have a surgery and then you're going to be in rehab for this long, and then you'll make a return somewhere around this date. When it's these tissue injuries, it's just different. And now I'll say the encouraging thing is that we did get some like IG video of Trey Mann. This was like 5 days ago. We got some IG video of Trey Mann playing basketball in sort of a, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know if it was like a contact situation or what have you.
Just like an open gym, and he slammed it. He rose up for a slam.
Yeah, so that's something. It's just very interesting that, and maybe from the Hornets' perspective, they know they have restricted free agency coming up. They want even more control over that situation. And so, when they don't have to issue information, maybe that's beneficial. It's interesting that Trey Mann has no desire to come out and say, because we've seen this with Mark Williams, right? He had a desire to come out and say, I'm not hurt. I'm good.
Yeah.
I would like you all to quit saying that I'm hurt.
Right.
We haven't seen that from Trey Mann.
No, we haven't heard anything from Trey. Let's continue that conversation, because I think there are a few other things that are important to bring up, and then we'll get to the mock draft coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
With everything so uncertain about Trey Mann's future, what do we take anything away from the tweet? What does it mean? What are the financial implications, the situation for the Hornets as it pertains to bringing Trey back? We'll get to all of that in just a moment here, Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. What you could do is take advantage of FanDuel, making it so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving in to player props. You can take advantage of the convenience of FanDuel, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. More Locked On Hornets ahead. So will Trey Mann play for the Hornets next year? Do the Hornets want to have Trey Mann play for the Hornets next year? Maybe a couple questions that we could look at in just briefly before we get to the mock draft. So one, the Hornets aren't going to have a whole lot of cap space this season. They are not operating like a team that has all this money to spend. You know, they gave Miles Bridges a large contract. They traded for somebody like Yusuf Nurkic, who's on the books. You know, that contract is not expiring, but there's a first round pick attached to it. So welcome, Yusuf Nurkic. You're at least on the books going into next season. And then you have all of these qualifying offers and whatnot to try to figure out. And that's true of Trey Mann as well. So if you look at the Trey Mann qualifying offer situation, as it stands right now, his cap hold is about $14.7 million. You extend him the qualifying offer. If Charlotte extends him the qualifying offer, that would be $6.9 million, right around $7 million. We'll just call it for ease's sake. So maybe he signs that $7 million qualifying offer, tests free agency on the open market, restricted free agency, doesn't get an offer sheet because he hadn't played since November 21st.
That's what I'm
saying. And then he comes back to the Hornets on $7 million for this upcoming season, and that's it. And then I
think it'll be more than that. I think they'll get a deal done. I think it's going to be, I'm going to make a guess here. I'm going to say it's 3 years, 33. It's going to be an $11 million deal, so it won't quite be the $14 million cap hold. But I think the Hornets, if he's healthy, if he's not healthy, then you just won't see anything happen. But if he is, if they're confident in this, you know, they've seen him a lot. They know that this video is of him, you know, getting into basketball activities, not in the Hornets. This wasn't a Hornets gym, by the way, I don't think, right? This video that we saw, this was like
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they know. So if he's healthy, I think he can be an asset for this team. And I think because I don't believe there's going to be a lot of competition for his services, you know, I think $11 million a year is perfectly fine for a player of his.
For sure. I think that's a good bet to make if you're the team and you don't want Trey to leave. But I do wonder, committing long term to a guy that has, I mean, it's true when you talk about Trey only giving you moments. You have not seen a whole lot of sustained play from him, but they're fun moments, but that's all they are. And you truly mean it with him. So are the Hornets just better inclined to say, we love you, we're not going to pay you 3 years. We'll go ahead and make this risk of you just not agreeing to a bigger offer sheet anywhere. If you do, then maybe we just let you go. Because even if you're talking about losing Okogie, losing DaQuan Jeffries, which we like Okogie. I'm not telling you I even want to lose Josh Okogie. DaQuan Jeffries, as much as I appreciate what he did this season, you know, it probably makes sense to move on given the cap situation for them. But even with that, it's not like you're just rolling in the dough. I don't pretend to be a cap expert, but you don't have a whole lot, even if you move off of Okogie and DaQuan Jeffries and you bring back Trey Mann. Let's say it's that $11 million. Like, I still think you're kind of in the hole cap space wise. I think you're like at what, -2, something like that. It's kind of tough. It's tough. Really, what's interesting is if the Hornets want to make a big change outside, of course, of whoever you're going to draft in the first round, it's going to have to come via trade. Whether it's Miles, whether it's just moving off of Nurk, which I don't think you really could do that and get anything of real value. Hell, again, the Suns just had to attach a first round pick to him. The big ones like LaMelo, Mark, you know, though if you're talking about specifically ways that the Hornets can make big changes to their roster, that's kind of it. Now, Trey Mann could free up some money if he leaves and then that cap hold comes off of the books. And now you're dealing with like, I think somewhere, I could be wrong, so I apologize, my figures are off, but like 10 million maybe if Trey Mann is gone and you move off of Jeffries and you move off of Okogie. And so that would free up some space. And then I guess you could dip into, you know, the extension, the MLE of it all. Yeah, man, it's not like they have a whole lot of wiggle room is my point. And so it's going to be pretty interesting to see what the Hornets value given where they are right now as a 19-win season, as a 19-win team. And if they're willing to let a guy we like in Okogie walk and a guy we like but hadn't played all that much in Trey Mann walk, it'll be fascinating.
Yeah, and what happens if they do slide to number 2? And now you're taking Dylan Harper, and now you're loading up in that, you know, guard position even more. What does that do to the decision? I mean, even Ace Bailey, I think muddies that water even more, because I think Dylan Harper is a automatic starter. I'm not sure as much about Ace Bailey. VJ Edgecombe, again, I think he's smaller than what he's listed. So I don't know if he's an immediate starter either. Obviously Cooper Flagg is, but that really wouldn't affect how you would view Trey Mann. So yeah, I think the draft will have something to do with this. I think at least we know, I mean, or I don't know that we know it, but you can look at that tweet and say postseason hoops back in Charlotte and say Trey Mann would have a desire to explore more time with the Charlotte Hornets. And it's all going to come down to what the Hornets know about and honestly, they might not, when they make this decision, they might not know for sure. Look, when they don't know for sure on a lot of this Mark Williams stuff with the foot, they continue to manage that injury. So much of this stuff, people assume like, oh, well, the training staff knows for sure whether that thing's going to hold up or not. No, you don't know. You don't know. A lot of times these are risks that you're taking, and you want to try to manage those risks best you can and have all of the information before you make that decision. But ultimately, you would jump off the diving board with Trey Mann and say, look, all right, $11 million a year, we'll roll the dice here. We're confident enough in the back, and we hope it holds up. And he was, I mean, we can't, it was so long ago, so many injuries ago, that it's easy to like discount Trey Mann. But what we have to remember how we felt about him and what we saw from him early in the season. And we thought to ourselves, that could be a possible 6th man of the year candidate that actually helps turn the Hornet season around and helps them beat expectations. And those are the kind of players they have to be looking for, players that can help them beat expectations. Trey Mann, before he got hurt, was one of those players, and we can't discount that.
And did some things that the other guards or ball handlers on this team, they don't do. I mean, gets to the rim quite a bit. Actually was quite poor finishing at the rim this year, but last year he was quite good at it. So let's just choose to look on the bright side, and he'll go back to what he did last year rather than the 13 games that he played this year. So those are a couple of things, and that's the last point I want to make that you're right about, I think, is he wants to be here in Charlotte by all accounts. He puts out the tweet, okay, put that on the pile. His brother plays right down the road, Nas Mann, who's a fun basketball player. He plays at Queens. He's in Charlotte in part because his brother is playing here with the Hornets as well. And Nas Mann like gets run. I talked with Grant Leonard, Queens coach, the other day. He said we're not losing really anybody of consequence to a huge degree. And Nas Mann is a guy that plays a lot of minutes for them. He's a good player. So I don't know. Maybe the brother thing, he likes it here. Maybe Trey does as well. And the other thing is Charlotte allowed him to blossom. You know, like Trey Mann was kind of locked away in OKC just because all the talent. He comes here to Charlotte, and this is where he thrives. So I think there are a few things as to why it would make sense that Trey Mann likes balling here in Charlotte compared to all the other cities.
Oh, and now I'm looking at this tweet and realizing that he didn't say Hornets. He didn't specify Hornets postseason hoops. He did say Charlotte. So maybe this is a Queens tweet.
And they're eligible. Queens is finally eligible to participate in the NCAA tournament next year after making that transition to D1. So, oh my God, this was all a Queens tweet. That's what oh man. And maybe that blue, I was wrong in assuming that it's teal. Maybe he actually meant navy blue heart emoji tweet that he put out there. All right, what's the mock draft for the day, Doug?
Mock draft is going to be SI, their draft digest staff, April 19th, 2025. They've got a 2-round mock. They've got the Charlotte Hornets taking Ace Bailey with the 3rd overall selection. And in the 2nd round with the 33rd pick, they've got Max Reynaud, which I just learned he was born in Paris, France. This is going to be, if they take Max, this is going to be France's favorite team, other than the Spurs, I guess.
Spurs probably got a
all right, fine.
on that.
They'll be the 2nd favorite team in France, having 3 French players if they decide to retain our guy Moose. And then with the 34th pick, they take Boogie Boogie Fland from Arkansas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was quite a big spark plug for them coming back from injury for Arkansas. How do you feel about taking a injured guard out of Arkansas that only came back at the end of the season? It's not like we've done that before. Would you be interested in that sort of thing?
Well, yeah. So the question that I would have for Nada on Thursday is Boogie more Rob Dillingham or is he more NSJ? I've seen comparisons to Rob Dillingham. I haven't seen comparisons to NSJ, but that would be the question. I think Rob Dillingham also injured.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Maybe, so it doesn't bode well. The big fun offensive centers in the 2nd round. I like one of them. Like, or even not even in the 2nd round, just late first. There's a few to be had. That would be fun to draft one of those guys anywhere from that, I don't know, 20 to 35 range. And the Hornets are picking in the back part of that right now. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. That does include YouTube. Listen to Locked On NBA. That's Doug's other pod. Also, check him out on everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. If you're into the Panthers and NFL draft night, you're into that sort of thing, it's draft week, folks. The Panthers are picking at 8. As of right now, could they trade back? Are they going to stand just right there at number 8? Ooh, I don't know. You'll have to tune in to Wes and Walker and find out. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.